Hello, my friend, and welcome to the CEO Soapbox Podcast, episode number 22. I am your host, Neda Farzad, and this is where we have honest conversations about business, leadership, growth, and what it really takes to build something solid without making it harder than it needs to be. And today we're talking about something I care deeply because good businesses do not just grow through better strategy, better hires, or better systems. They also grow through better leadership. I don't mean polished leadership, I mean real leadership. The kind that it gets stronger under pressure, the kind that it gets clearer as the business gets bigger, the kind that helps a business grow up properly, not just grow out. So if you are building a business, leading a team, carrying a lot and trying to do it well, this episode, this conversation, my friend, is for you. Because the more I do this work, the more convinced I am of one thing. Business success is absolutely an inside job, but not in a fluffy way. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your business will eventually hit the limit of your leadership. Not your ambition, not your strategy deck, not your revenue target, your leadership. And I don't mean leadership in a quote card sense. I mean your ability to think clearly under pressure, your ability to make decisions without creating drama, your ability to hear hard truth without getting defensive, your ability to build accountability without becoming controlling, your ability to let go of being the hero and lead like the business is bigger than your ego. That's the real stuff. Because I've seen this over and over inside real businesses. The founder says they want scale. The CEO says they want a stronger leadership team. The MD says they want better execution. They all say they want more clarity, more ownership, and less dependency. But when you scratch the surface, what they really want is for business to improve without them having to change much. And that's where the whole thing starts to go sideways. Because the business does not rise above the leadership operating system running it. It reflects it. If you avoid hard conversations, the business gets polite and unclear. If you are inconsistent, the business gets confused. If you are reactive, the business gets twitchy. If you rescue too much, the business gets dependent. If you tolerate crap, the business fills up with crap. That's not mindset fluff. That's cause and effect. And a lot of leaders do not want to hear that. Unfortunately, a lot of, because it's easier to blame the team, the market, the wrong hire, the economy, the timing, whatever. And sure, sometimes those things are real. I know, I'm with you. They are real sometimes. But sometimes the problem is much closer to home. Sometimes the friction in the business is not just an operational problem. It's a leadership maturity problem. And this is where it gets real. What does it actually look like when business success is tied to the leader's own development? It looks like this. So the owner says they want ownership, but they still override people. So the team stops owning. The CEO says that they want better decisions, but people are scared to bring bad news. So decision quality gets worse. The managing director, the MD, says they want accountability, but standards shift depending on who they're dealing with. So accountability becomes political. The business owner says they want to step out of the weeds, but they still jump into everything, clarify every message, and approve every freaking move. So the business never learns to stand on its own. That is what it looks like. And this is why I get twitchy when people talk about business problems like they all live in org charts and KPI sheets and dashboards and structures. Those things matter. Don't get me wrong. Of course they matter. But behind a lot of those problems is a human pattern, a leadership habit, a belief, a fear, an ego attachment, a maturity gap. Maybe the leader avoids conflict, so standards stay muddy. Maybe they need to be needed, so they stay in the middle of everything and call it being across details. Maybe they hate feeling out of control, so they micromanage and dress it up as high standard. Maybe they are so used to being the smartest operator in the room that they struggle to build a team that can handle them and can challenge them. Maybe they built the business through hustle and instinct. And now the business is big enough that the hustle is no longer enough. But they are still trying to lead a more complex company using old survival settings. Because the business that got you here is often not the business model, leadership model, or operating model that gets you there or where you want to go. And the version of you that built the first stage of success might not be the version required for the next one. That's not an insult. I'm not trying to insult you. That's growth. That's part of the growth. Now, where people get this wrong is this. A lot of people hear personal and professional development and think books, courses, journaling, morning routines, and some bloke on the internet telling you to wake up at 4 a.m. and sit in the ice bath. That's not what I mean here. I'm not talking about self-development as a hobby, okay? I am talking about your development as a business necessity. Because real leadership development is not about collecting insights. It's about confronting the pattern that are costing the business. That might mean learning to hear feedback without getting prickly. Learning to delegate properly instead of dumping. Learning to separate urgency from importance. Learning to make clean decisions instead of delayed emotional ones. Learning to stop performing certainty when you actually need better thinking. Learning to build standards that survive your mood. Learning to stop confusing personal value with personal involvement. That's the work. And it's not always sexy. A lot of time, it looks shutting up sooner in meeting, listening longer, holding a harder line, being clearer, letting people own outcomes, not rescuing adults from the consequences of weak performance, not needing to be the smartest, fastest, and most sensual person in every room. That is, my friend, leadership maturity. And that maturity has a direct commercial impact on your business. This is why I reject the idea that leadership growth is some side project sitting off to the side of the real business stuff. It is the real business stuff. Because your team is reading you all day. They are reading what you tolerate, what you reward, what gets your attention, what you avoid, whether your words and behavior actually match. And the business will always believe your behavior over your strategy. The business will always believe your behavior over your strategy. You can say you want accountability all day long, but if you keep stepping in to save underperformance, the business learns dependency. You can say you want initiative all day long, but if every decision still has to be emotionally approved by you, the business learns caution. You can say you want high standards all day long, but if you tolerate people who drain momentum, miss deadlines, create confusion, or poison ownership, the business learns that standards are optional. So no, business success is not just about the plan. It is also about the person leading it. And this matters more than people think. Because if you ignore your own growth as a leader, as a business owner, the business pays for it. Sometimes slowly, sometimes very expensively. If your team still needs you to clarify, settle, approve, chase, calm, translate, nudge, rescue, or escalate everything, you do not have a healthy business. You have a business built around your personal energy. And that might feel flattering for a while, and it should be because you worked hard to build this. It might even make you feel useful. But that's not going to help you scale. It is dependence, and dependence is very fragile. Because the minute you step back, get sick, lose energy, hit capacity, or want a life, the cracks show up fast. If the business only works properly when you are personally propping it up, that's not strengthening the business. That is a structural weakness wearing your face. And then decision quality drops. Leaders who haven't developed their own thinking pattern often create decision drag without realizing it. They delay, they second guess, they ask for input, then ignore it. They want alignment, but avoid final calls, or they make reactive decisions because pressure makes them twitchy. Your team, the team feels that. And once the team stops trusting how decisions get made, execution, my friend, slows down. People wait, people hedge, people escalate too much, people protect themselves. My friend, people in your business will do anything to protect themselves because you're paying them. That's their wages. People stop taking clean ownership because they are not sure where the line actually is. And then your good people get tired. Strong operators do not stay in an environment where leadership creates unnecessary drag forever. But eventually, the good ones get tired of unclear priorities, inconsistent standards, emotional decision making, constant reversals, too much found the gravity, too much found the gravity, and being told to own things they are not really allowed to own. So what happens? The best people either leave or they mentally checked out and do the safe minimum. Then the leader says, why can I find good people? Sometimes you can. Sometimes they just can't breathe in the system you built. And culture gets weird. Not fun weird, bad weird. People become overly cautious around you, the leader. Meetings become performative. Bad news gets softened. Politics increases. Ownership drops. People try to read moods instead of reading strategy. Energy goes into managing the leader instead of moving the business. That culture is expensive as hell. And then growth gets heavier, not cleaner. The business grows, revenue increases, headcount expands, clients come in, complexity rises. But instead of getting stronger, the business gets slower and more fragile. Why? Because growth has exposed the limits of the leader's current way of operating. So every extra layer creates more confusion. Every new hire increases the need for clarification. Every new opportunity creates operational strain. Every challenge pulls the founder back into the weeds. That's not a real scale. If your growth keeps producing more complexity, more dependence, and more noise, the problem is not just growth. You ready for it? It is the leadership capacity behind it. So here's the part no one likes hearing. Your business is not just built by your strategy. It's shaped by your nervous system, your standards, your self-awareness, your ability to regulate under pressure, your relationship with control, your tolerance for discomfort, and your willingness to grow beyond the role you used to play. That's the truth. Because leadership is not just what you know. It's how you show up when things get messy. Anyone can look decent when numbers are fine, the team is stable, the cash is good, and the plan is on track. I've seen it, especially when in WA we had a boom. Real leadership shows up when the pressure is on. When someone disappoints you, when the business outgrows your old habits, when you need to change your own behavior before the business can change its result. That's what the game actually is. And this is why I say business success is an inside job, but not in a fluffy way. I mean, this in the most commercially grounded way possible. The quality of your business will eventually reflect the quality of your leadership development. Not perfectly, not instantly, but consistently over time. If you develop, the business gets a chance to develop with you. If you don't, the business starts carrying the cost of your stagnation. That may sound blunt, good, because too many leaders want a better business without becoming a better leader for stage they are in. And that's fantasy. So, what do you actually do with that? If you're listening to this and thinking, fair cool, I can see some of myself in this. Good. That is very useful, my friend. So first, audit your own pattern, not just the team. Ask yourself, where am I still too central? Where do I create hesitation without meaning to? What problems keep repeating around me? Where do I say I want ownership, but behave in ways that reduce it? What am I tolerating because I do not want the discomfort of dealing with it properly? Where has my identity as the fixer become a bottleneck? That is a better audit than asking why the team is not stepping. Sometimes the team is not stepping up because the system and the leader keeps pulling them back down. Then get honest about your stage of leadership. Not every version of the leadership fits every stage of the business. What got you from 0 to 1 million is not what gets you from 5 to 10 or from 1 to 5, 1 to 2. What got you through startup chaos may not serve you in a more complex operating environment. What worked when you had a small loyal team may fail once you have layers, managers, and bigger consequences. So I want you to ask yourself, what kind of leader does this stage of business require now? What do I need to stop doing? What do I need to build that I have been relying on instinct for? Sometimes the most important development is not becoming more impressive. It's becoming more disciplined. more consistent, more scalable. Then separate control from standard. A lot of leaders think if they let go, standards will drop. Are you nodding? This is a big issue. I think there's another thing that we need to talk about. But often, what they are defending is not the standard. They're defending control. Those two are not the same thing. High standards are clear, visible, teachable, measurable, and reinforced. Control, though, is personal, centralized, inconsistent, and exhausting. If the business needs your fingerprint on everything to maintain quality, that is not a standard system. That's a dependency loop, my friend. So build standards people can operate from without needing a live translation from you every 5 bloody minutes. Then I want you to look at how you behave under pressure. When pressure rises, do you get sharp and snappy, rush decisions, avoid the real issues, overfunction, withdraw, start micromanaging, become emotionally unavailable, change priorities too often, create agency around everything? Pressure does not invent your patterns, okay? It reveals them. And if you do not know what pressure does to you, the business ends up adjusting around your unmanaged behavior. That is not fair on the team and it's not sustainable. And finally, build a leadership team that can tell you the truth. If nobody around you can challenge you safely, you are, my friend, in big, big trouble. You do not need cheerleaders. You need adults. You need people who can say, this is not clear. This is causing confusion. You're too involved in this. This decision keeps getting reopened. The team is waiting on you too much. Your behavior in that meeting shut people down. This standard is not being enforced consistently. That is gold. Not because it's fun, because it's useful. If you say you want a strong leadership team, but you banish honesty, you're kidding yourself. And stop treating leadership growth like a side hobby. This is not the thing you get to once the business comes. It is part of how the business comes there. Read the thing. Get coach if you need to. Need it. Yeah, I personally think every leader should have a coach. Get feedback. Have the hard conversation. Reflect properly. Fix the pattern. Change the behavior. Install the discipline. But do not keep consuming insight without applying. There are plenty of leaders who can talk beautifully about leadership and still create chaos in their own business. And that's not wisdom, that's branding, okay? Now, let me leave you with a few questions worth sitting with after this episode. Not to make you feel bad, okay? To make you sharper. So these are the things I will ask myself and I will ask the leaders that I work with. And I want you to remember this and just sit with it. So where is my leadership helping the business become clearer, calmer, and stronger? Then number 2 is, where is it making the business more dependent, more cautious, or more confused? What part of my current success is coming from maturity and design, and what part is still being held together by personal effort? What am I still calling high standard that is actually just control? What conversation, changes, or truth have I delayed because they would require me to grow further? And maybe the biggest one I want you to ask yourself, is the business carrying the cost of who I have not yet become as a leader? That one bites a lot. I know. But it is a bloody powerful question. Because sometimes the next growth constraint is not out there in the market. It is in here, in you, in the way you lead, in what you avoid, in what you protect, in what you refuse to outgrow. So here's what I want you to take from this. The success of your business is absolutely tied to your own personal and professional growth as a leader, as a person. Not because you need to become some perfect, enlightened unicorn of a CEO or business owner or entrepreneur, but because your business can only get as clean, clear, and scalable as the leadership shaping it. If you want a business with better execution, better ownership, better decision making, stronger leaders, healthier culture, and less dependency, then at some point you have to ask whether you are developing at the same rate you expect your business to. Because if you're not growing in self-awareness, maturity, discipline, leadership range, the business will eventually start tripping over your limit. And that is the real message here. The business does not just need your effort. It needs your evolution. And here's another one worth remembering. You cannot build a more mature business with an underdeveloped leadership pattern at the center. That is the game. No fluff, no theory, no fake inspiration, or no reading quotes online. Just real cause and effect inside real business. So if this episode hit a nerve a bit, good. Not in a shame way. I don't mean it that way. Not in the shamey way. That's not what I mean. In a useful way, because this is where a lot of smart, capable, hardworking leaders get stuck. I've seen it. It happened to me. You see, they keep trying to solve externally what is partly being created internally. And once you see that, you can do something about it. You can lead differently. You can decide differently. You can build differently. You can stop dragging old habits into a business that now needs a more mature version of you. That's not a weakness. That's a leadership. Thank you for being here with me on CEO Soapbox, my amazing leaders. If this episode gave you a proper nudge, made you rethink something, or helped you put a word around a problem that's been annoying you for a while, please subscribe and send it to someone else who'll get value from it too. And if you're sitting in that messy middle where the business is growing, but things still feel clunky, slow, or more reactive, then they should come and find me on LinkedIn. This is the kind of work I help leaders with every day, making the business easier to run, clearer to lead, and less reliant on sheer effort holding everything together. Thank you for being with me. Wishing you an amazing week ahead. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, especially to yourself. Bye for now.